Hello again, everybody. This is Joe Larson, and you're watching the 5 Off, 5 On show. Tonight's show, we'll have a lot to talk about. We're going to talk about in the Where Are They Now segment, 1960 Grand National Champion Rex White, and the 1994 Whelen Modified Tour Champion Ricky Fuller. And we're going to talk about what's going on, some of the news at the Stewart-Haas race camp, as well as the Tony Stewart lawsuit that's going on, which has just been all opened up. We have some other NASCAR news we'll be sharing with you. We're also going to talk about two spectators who were suing NASCAR et al., that means and others, for injuries they sustained at Daytona Speedway. We'll talk about that later on as well. And NASCAR is 70 years old. We're going to talk about that and talk about some of the NASCAR milestones. And we'll talk about what we got planned for 2018 and forward, and any other racing talk that we decide to talk about. So thanks for joining in. Thanks for watching and listening. Thanks for your patience tonight. Anybody who spent any time on Long Island knows that Long Island traffic is a nightmare at best at times, especially during this week before Christmas and during Hanukkah. So, but we made it. We're here, and we'll give you a full hour of race talk tonight. So, where are they now? We're going to do that. We're going to do that right now. All right, Rex White. Rex White was the 1960 Grand National Champion. He was born August 17th in 1929. I had the opportunity a few years back to meet him as they reenact during Speed Weeks the race at the beach at Daytona Beach on A1A. He was standing there talking to people, and when I realized it was Rex White, I went over and I did some talking myself. So Rex White, he's from Taylorsville, North Carolina. He was one of the drivers who competed for the original Ford team, switching over to Chevrolet. He started racing in 1956. He had 14 top 10 finishes in 1956. In 57, he went part-time with 2 victories. And in 1960, his 6 wins in the NASCAR Grand National Series, known now as the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series, propelled him into the championship. White retired in 1964 with 73 career victories in the NASCAR Grand National Division, as it was called then. White suffered from polio as a young boy, which affected one leg, which was kind of withered. And when you saw him that last picture, he was kind of lean, and that's how he stands. That's how he normally stands. That's a picture of Rex at the beach course not too many years ago. Still around, still making it happen. So again, he had polio, and he learned to drive a truck at 6 years old while working in the North Carolina fields. He drove his first race in the sportsman division, racing at West Landham Speedway in Maryland. And by season's end, White, a rookie, had won the sportsmanship championship. Most popular driver in 1960, and he was also named the Driver of the Year. White drove his gold and white Chevys, and in comparison to today's champions, White earned $13,000 in point fund money from NASCAR. Guys get that for taking the green and pulling in after one lap today. 1961 saw White race 47 of the 55 races that NASCAR had then, and earning him 29 top 5s and 39 top 10s. 1962, career high, 8 wins, but only 5th in the point title. But from 1959 to 1963, White won more races, 28 of them, than any other driver during the same period. And that included Lee Petty, Richard Petty, Ned Jarrett, Fireball Roberts, Junior Johnson, Curtis Turner, Joe Weatherly, and Buck Baker. Think about those names, ladies and gentlemen. Those guys went on to win all kinds of races. Richard Petty with 200 wins. And in that time, he was just starting out in 59. But when you look at those names, Rex White won more races during that same time period than those guys. White raced 9 years with 233 starts. He won 28 races, a winning percentage of over 12%. 1998, named one of NASCAR's top 50 drivers. The National Motorsport Express Association Hall of Fame at Darkland Speedway, and also the Georgia Automobile Racing Hall of Fame have both inducted him into their halls of fame. The Ultimate Hall of Fame, the NASCAR Hall of Fame in Charlotte, North Carolina, inducted Rex White in 2015. And now Rex White's still alive and kicking, as they say, residing in North Carolina near his hometown of Taylorsville, North Carolina. Rex White, he was a true champion, brought up in a time where men were men racing back in those days. And I'll tell you what, he may have been short in stature, and he may have had that issue with his leg, but he could run with the best of them. Next on our Where Are They Now? Rick Fuller. Rick Fuller was a modified tour driver. Rick was born October 1960. He's from Auburn, Massachusetts. Rick, as I said earlier, is the 1993 Whelen Modified Tour champion. He had top 10 in points 10 of the 17 seasons he competed. Rick Fuller is the younger brother, and as he told me, better looking and taller of his brother Jeff Fuller. He's the younger brother of Jeff, who was also a Whelen Modified standout, winning the title in 1992. First tour event for Rick Fuller was at the Thompson Motorsports Park in Connecticut, and which was also the first event for the newly founded NASCAR Tour. I believe it was called the Winston Tour back then. He earned his first championship in the weekly series at the Westboro Speedway in Massachusetts in 1980, driving a late model. Then another title in 1982 with Thompson when he moved to the Modifieds, and then winning a championship at Thompson in 1985. He was the most popular driver in the Mod Tour in 2000, and he ran 438 Whelen Modified Tour events with 20 victories. Consistently up front, 232 top 10s. He drove in a K&M Pro Series East as well, which was called the Busch North back then. He had 21 starts in 4 seasons. Part-time with a victory in 1998. He ran 4 races in, 4 seasons, 4 races in 3 seasons in the Xfinity, which was then the Nationwide Series. And he was one of those guys who just showed up every week, and he was a fun guy to be around. I could share some Rick Fuller stories. Go to Nazareth, PA, for a NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour event. And at the time, I'm the race director. And part of my job, and I may have said this once before, is I would sit with the rookie drivers and talk about the racetrack, how to run it, where you should be, where you shouldn't be, where to get out of the way, things of that nature. Now, as we all know, I never drove a modified, nor did I ever drive at Nazareth Speedway in Pennsylvania. And I said to myself, how can I talk to these guys about a racetrack I never even saw up until that morning? So I got with my boss, Ed Cox, and series director, and I said, who's a good guy to bring into this rookie meeting? Well, he says, grab Rick Fuller if he's not busy. So I go over and I ask Rick to come in, and can help me out with the meeting later? He goes, yeah. He says, what do you need to know? I says, I've never even seen this track till today. He goes, the car you have here today, is it yours or a rental? I says, what has that got to do with the meeting? Rick Fuller says, if it's a rental, we'll go out there and do some laps. Go get a helmet and buckle up. And we did some laps in this rental car, and I know a couple of times we had the left side of the car off the ground. And he says to me, you got to hit these. It's a curb. It's a rounded curb. He goes, you got to hit these, because if you don't hit these, when you come off the corner, you're going to hit the wall. So we got to express that to these drivers at the meeting. And when you go down here, you're going to be at full speed. You want to not break into this corner, and he just want to, and we're going 140 miles an hour in my rental car, and I'm sitting there the whole time, sitting there, what if we wreck this thing? What am I going to tell Avis? Well, we got out of there, we were both laughing, and that's the kind of guy Ricky Fuller was. I never, in all the years that I've watched him race or been involved with him racing, or even officiating a race he was in, I've never seen him get upset. I'm sure other people have. I've never seen him be rude to somebody. He was one of those guys, had a smile on his face. In fact, this past October, I was at the World Series of Auto Racing at the Thompson Motorsports Park, and Ricky and I had a little chat talking about some things that are going on, and he's there racing. His daughter's racing a car there, and he's having so much fun. And that's what this business is all about, having fun, having a good time. And no matter what happens in any sport, if you're not having fun, maybe it's time to go do something else. And I've always said that. And Ricky Fuller is still having fun, although he's on the I guess, owner, pit crew chief side of the fence right now. So that is what he is doing. Still alive and kicking as well. He's a pretty young guy. He's younger than me at, I believe, 57 years old. And I wish him luck and success with his daughter. And he's having a good time with that. And one more thing in this segment, we're going to talk about Bob Glidden. Bob Glidden was a pro stock standout. Bob Glidden passed away on December 17th. His career with the NHRA spanned 25 years. Glidden won 85 events and 10 season championships. Glidden was also voted number 4 on the list of the top 50 racers from the NHRA's first 50 years, which was done in 2000. Known as Mad Dog, he dedicated his life to the pro stock class and dominated the series in the NHRA and the pro stocks through the 70s and 80s with back-to-back championships in 74 and 75, 3 in a row in 78, 79, and 80, and 5 straight from 85 to 89. Bob Glidden was 73 years old. The racing community, not just drag racing, will miss him, and we offer our condolences to Bob Glidden's family and friends, and may he rest in peace and go find that drag strip in heaven. It's right next to Heaven Motor Speedway, my friend. God bless you, Godspeed, and we'll be right back.
Hey, I was going to say what's up for some reason. Hey, we're Set It Up, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Village Music Shop of Mastic, 1-800-HEY-DUDE, your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop, 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi there, this is Buddy from Less Than Jake, and you are listening to Inravio TV. You're probably watching it too.
Welcome back, everybody. Some NASCAR news. Not a lot going on in the off-season, you would think, but Stewart-Haas Racing recently announced last week a driver crew chief pairings for 2018, according to NASCAR.com. Kevin Harvick, whose crew chief is Rodney Childers on the 4-car, and Clint Boyer with Mike Bergowitz in the 14-car remain the same. So those teams will stay the same. Everything's going to be good. We got Kevin Harvick. Had a good season, good times at Stewart-Haas. And again, Clint Boyer, who was also one of the main stablemen at Stewart-Haas Racing. And changes will be on the 41 and the 10 cars. Kurt Busch will be in the 41, and we'll now have Billy Sloth. Tony Gibson became Busch's crew chief in 11 through 14. He will resume a new role with Stewart-Haas Racing. Scott was crew chief for the 10 with Danica Patrick in 2016 and 2017. Eric Almirola, the newest member of the Stewart-Haas team, replaces Danica Patrick, and Eric will have crew chief John Kleisemeyer, who has been with Stewart-Haas as an engineer since 2009. So some changes there going on at Stewart-Haas. Some changes also going on in NASCAR, as NASCAR announced she's always making news. She's not racing. She's made Danica Patrick that there's more news outside of a race car than she's made in it. But Danica Patrick and her 5-year relationship with a Cup driver, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., is over. They called it quits. No reasons were given. It's just it ran its course. What's the term that some people say? The relationship ran its course. Stenhouse still driving in the Cup Series. Danica Patrick is still trying to make a deal to get a ride for the Daytona 500 in NASCAR and a ride in the Indy 500 in Indianapolis the Memorial Day weekend. So it should be interesting to see how that pans out. And speaking of Tony Stewart and his team, ESPN announced last week through writer Bob Pockrass, a United States District Court Judge, David Hurd, has decided that the family of Kevin Ward Jr. can pursue its claim against former NASCAR driver Tony Stewart. The incident occurred in 2014 at I can't even say this racetrack, Canadiega Motorsports Park. I hope I said that right, resulting in Ward's death. We talked about this in 2014, actually had some video of it back then. And Hurd's decision states in part, and I quote, "The incident occurred is considered a recreational activity under New York state law. So waivers signed by Ward and his father, who also is his car owner, are not enforceable." Think about that, ladies and gentlemen. Those of you who go to your weekly races, whether it be in New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, Texas, California, wherever it may be, if this comes to be, it's what they call in legalese precedent. Many racetracks across North America have you sign that waiver when you go into the pits. If anybody has ever read that, and I'm sure nobody's read what they're signing, they sign it because the person at the window says, print your name, sign your name, and your PIN number is 2937. Nobody questions that. Basically what that's saying is you won't sue if you're injured or worse. Now, we've done this. We've been in this business a long time. I've been around this sport most of my life. And I've signed those reports. And yeah, I was lucky enough to be part of the NASCAR sanction. So when I was injured, NASCAR picked up the bills that my insurance company would not pay, any of my out-of-pocket expenses. They paid the babysitter, they paid mileage to and from physical therapy, they paid my co-pays, they paid for a lot of stuff. I didn't sue NASCAR, I didn't sue the racetrack. I was just happy to be walking. But there are some people that they're going to sign this waiver, and they just think that's a record of that they're there. It's a waiver that says that you won't sue them if you get injured. It's like workers' comp. You can't sue your employer. Not that NASCAR or your local racetrack is your employer, because the drivers who race at these facilities, they get a 1099 for their earnings. So you're a subcontractor, so you really can't sue. But looking back on this tragedy, as we'll call it, that racetrack, the backstretch was not well lit, and there was an incident between Stewart and Ward on the racetrack. Ward jumped out of his car, and I don't know if he thought he was going to get Tony Stewart to stop so they could have a discussion. I don't know if he just wanted to kick the car. I don't know if he wanted to get in Tony's face, because that's what he was doing. And for those who've never driven a race car, if you're on a dark racetrack, you're really not seeing anything, because the track itself is lit up, not the wall area. And the lights are kind of the way they are. Sometimes it's in your eyes, and you really don't see what's seeing. And also, you don't ever expect somebody to be standing on the racetrack. It was an accident. And it's unfortunate that this judge in David Hurd in upstate New York has moved forward with this, because this could send shockwaves throughout all of racing. It was an accident. Let's be done with it. There's a lot of things that were said in his blood tox on Mr. Ward after they did an autopsy. He was high, whatever. I know many a driver that goes out there under the influence, as we'll say. And when those things happen, your mind isn't really all there anyway. You think you're indestructible, you think you're Superman. And for his family to want to drag this out, they're looking at a paycheck. And let me tell you something, and there isn't enough money in the world to bring back your son or your daughter. And so let's say they settle out of court and they end up with a few $1 million. Is that going to bring their son back? It's not. And a judge that's going to hear this case, even though Tony Stewart's attorneys have filed all their briefs and the sheriff's department has cleared Tony Stewart of any wrongdoing, and they weren't happy with that. They're going to keep going forward. And I hate to be political here, but maybe Judge David Hurd is looking, I got to get my name in the papers. Maybe I'm going to run for something in November next year. I hate to think that's the case, but I'm going to follow this and keep giving you reports. Tony Stewart did nothing wrong, and the Ward family is wrong by so many accounts to drag this up again 3 years later. They had 4 years to file this claim. They did it in the 4-year period, and it's going to be interesting how this waiver thing becomes, because if he rules that way and the Ward family wins their case based on you can't sign your rights away, it's gonna, like I said earlier, gonna send shockwaves throughout the racing community, and not just racing, many other sports as well. So keep an eye on that and see how that goes. Anyway, some more news coming out of NASCAR. Front Row Motorsports will return in 2018 with new driver Michael McDowell and returning driver David Reagan. McDowell joins the Bob Jenkins-owned team after spending the last 4 seasons with the Levine family racing group. Landon Castle will not return after a 2-year run. His plans are undecided at this time, so it'll be interesting to see where Landon Castle ends up. Landon Castle did not have a stellar season this year. He was one of those drivers that always seemed to be in the hunt mid-race. If you've ever watched any of these races, especially prior to the stage racing, if you ever watch these, many teams, they try to get track position early in the race, and then they just sit back. Midway through the race, it's a parade. No doubt about it. I'm not trying to put anybody down in the sport down, but it's a parade. With that last pit stop, sometimes with 35, 25, 20 laps to go, then they start racing, and Landon Castle would go backwards. Is it the equipment? Is it the team? Is it the driver? I know it wasn't the spotter, because the spotter is one of the best in the business. So when you look at that, it's time. Hey, as a businessman, Front Row Motorsports, as a businessman, you want the best team out there, the best race team you could have. So here we got Michael McDowell. Michael McDowell, he had run in Michael Waltrip racing for a while. Michael McDowell, I think, will be a better fit in Front Row Motorsports than Landon Castle. It's just one of those things. Racing teams, it's a chemical mixture. Either everything needs to mix, or you're going to have this. You're going to have turmoil and nobody getting along. And you can't have that. And I've seen a lot of that, especially in the Whelen Modified Tour, when a driver comes in with a team and it sounds all good. You have a real good team and a real good driver. And the driver comes in and they want it this way, they want it that way, they want it the other way, they want it their way, they want to bring their crew chief, they want to bring this, they want to bring that. And the car owner is like, well, I want to use my guys. I've been using these guys forever. I don't want to just kick them to the curb. And it already starts out with turmoil. Similar situation happened when Ronnie Silk, NASCAR Whelen Modified Tour driver, and Danny Watts connected. I thought that, wow, that's going to be good. They didn't make a season. They only ran a handful of races, and all of a sudden Ron Silk was out and somebody else was in. Nobody badmouthed anybody. All they said was it wasn't gelling. For whatever reason. It happens. I had a kid driving for me at the local track, and by mid-season I hated going to the shop, because his father knew everything. The guy never went to a race, let alone worked on race cars. He knew everything. And he thought it was like we were in the Cup Series, and with the phone calls and with requests for this part, that part, the other part. And I remember saying to this kid's dad, I said, your son hasn't passed a car all season. So he was trying to tell me that he did, that he passes cars all the time. And so I got with the local videographer and gave him the videos. Let's sit in the shop and watch it. He's like, oh wow, you're right, he didn't. And towards the end of the season, I mean, I'm away doing my tour stuff, and by season's end, it was just like I didn't even want to get the results, because I was looking at those results from the bottom up. And on the last race of the season, he told his kid in front of a bunch of people who he didn't know were friends of mine, on the last lap, stuff it in the fence, because we're going legend car racing. Now, they never went legend car racing. They never went racing again. because they found out how expensive it is to go racing. And fortunately or unfortunately, we never spoke again. So, that's what happens at racing. Things that look good. I mean, he came with sponsors and everything, but it just didn't work out. Anyway, when we come back, we're going to talk about another lawsuit that's going on in NASCAR and how that's going to affect future events, not only NASCAR, but at all racetracks across the country when we come back.
Hi, I'm Remington.
I'm Emerson.
And I'm Sebastian.
We're Palais Royale, and you're watching Inravio TV.
There we go.
The world of advertising has changed. Radio, TV, and newspaper revenues have declined drastically. Why? Because businesses have realized that advertising return on investment isn't what it used to be. So what can we do about it? Well, that's easy. Advertise online. Own a local restaurant, real estate agency, or even a national retail chain? Whatever your business, Inravio can get your message out there, and we can do it at a fraction of the cost. Call today and see the difference for yourself. This isn't TV. This isn't radio. This is Inravio.com.
Hey, this is Chris Les Jake, and if Inravio.com spots you at an event wearing this bracelet, they will give you $100.
Village Music Shop of Mastic. 1-800-HEY-DUDE. Your full-service store with personalized attention, school band instrument rentals and sales, music instruction on all instruments for all styles and age groups, for guitars, drums, amplifiers, PA systems, and accessories. It's Village Music Shop. 1495 Montauk Highway in Mastic. Call 1-800-HEY-DUDE or go to villagemusicshop.com.
Hi, this is Mike Jarecki from My Race News, and you're watching the Inravio TV network.
Welcome back, everybody. Yeah, another lawsuit has been filed against International Speedway Corp, NASCAR. Two people who attended the NASCAR's 2015 Coke 0400 are suing NASCAR due to a crash, and the crashes injuring them. They're suffering burns and inhalation problems and hit with parts. Austin Dillon, at car 3, owned by Richard Childress Racing. I think I have a picture of the car bouncing into the catch fence. The final lap of the race, there's the 3, almost chassis side against the fence. Car 3 hit the catch fence. As you could see, debris went flying all over the place, fuel, fluids, into the stands, and it wasn't good. Austin Dillon, when the car landed, the safety workers got to him, was okay. It goes to say for the safety of these race cars. But the scattered debris and fluids, again, went through the catch fence and hit several fans. One other fan already settled his lawsuit out of court. However, 2 men, John and Wayne Van Patten, recently filed suit for injuries suffered from the crash that are still affecting them, and it's affecting their life and their work, and they're looking to get a lot of money. Now, I've been to thousands of races in my lifetime, and have I seen people get hit with things? Absolutely. I've seen wheels go into the grandstands and hit people. I saw a muffler go over the fence. It got knocked off, it got run over by another car, went airborne, and actually hit a woman in the chest, and because it was so hot, it burned her clothes and it burned her. I've seen people, when the races are over, cars driving into the pits and stop, and people want to get close and look, and somebody leaned against the muffler on a modified and burned their leg. They didn't sue. It's part of what happens at racetracks. Yeah, the racetrack covers their medical and NASCAR, if they're signed into the pit area and have the proper credentials, absolutely. But you go to these racetracks and you're sitting down low, and you had to catch fences to keep the cars from going into the grandstands, which years ago happened. And you're going to get hit with, I've gone home with rubber in my ear. You know, you take a shower and you're pulling out rubber. I've gone to especially dirt races where for a couple of days, because sometimes I'm right there on the infield, but right on the fence, you know, getting video or on pit road and trying to run around getting interviews. And for 3 days after, I'm blowing my nose and dirt and clay is coming out of it. You know, it's what you do. You got to know this is going to happen. And yeah, I'm sorry these guys got injured. I'm sorry that it's now, you know, December and they still suffer the effects of that injury. But you know what? I'm sure NASCAR and International Speedway covered their expenses. I'm sure they filed a claim. And, you know, again, what are they looking to get? Are they looking for a 7-figure payout as well? I really get upset when I see things like this. And I get more upset with the lawyers who take these cases, and I guess they're out to make money. And, oh, yeah, you know, we sue for like, you know, $3 million. I get a third. That's $1 million for this frivolous lawsuit that's going to settle out of court. And I can remember talking to a race promoter about lawsuits at the racetrack. They're sued as one promoter said to me, a track operator, I get sued every week. Every week there's some kind of lawsuit. I just give it to my lawyer. And sometimes they settle and sometimes they don't. But again, I hope these guys end up okay down the road. You know, their injuries heal. But I see more and more of this. And not only are they suing International Speedway Corp., which owns Daytona International Speedway, they're suing NASCAR as well. I wouldn't be surprised if Richard Childress Racing is listed as a co-defendant, as well as Austin Dillon. So we'll see how that one turns out. And it should be interesting. And speaking of NASCAR, 70 years ago, December 14th, 1948, Big Bill France sat down at the Skyline Hotel with a bunch of his friends and businessmen from the area and formed NASCAR. This undertaking was a direct result of Big Bill France, who was a racer himself, going to race at some of these racetracks. And that's a picture of the group in the hotel conference room working this out, ironing it out. Big Bill France raced when there was no sanction. Basically, it was a bunch of moonshiners for bragging rights. Let's go racing. And someone just say, hey guys, race on my racetrack. And while they're out there racing, and then the race is over and they go to get their payoff, the payoff window's closed. They don't get their money. The promoters ran off. But they kept going back week after week because it was more about bragging rights. There's Big Bill France prior to the opening of Daytona National Speedway, sitting up in one of the turns to show people the banking. And he's leaning back, believe it or not, because if he leaned forward, he would fall over. The banks at the Daytona Speedway are pitched more than your roof. Now, if you guys out there, if you've ever had to climb up on your roof for any reason, you realize how much of a banking is. But Daytona and NASCAR, 70 years old, and who thought it would last? NASCAR. Some of the things, some of the, I'll say highlights of some of the things that's happened in NASCAR over the years. You know, it's formed in 1948. 1949, June 19th. First official NASCAR event is held at the Charlotte Fairgrounds in North Carolina and won by Jim Roper. 1950, NASCAR's first asphalt race, Darlington, South Carolina, was considered a super speedway back then, with Johnny Mance as the winner. 55, the plans to build Daytona International Speedway were announced and filed with the city of Daytona Beach. 1958, final race at the old Daytona Beach and road course, won by Paul Goldsmith. Lee Petty wins the first Daytona 500 in a photo finish that took 3 days to choose the winner. From 61 to 67, Illinois' Fred Lorenzen won 26 races, and became NASCAR's earliest stars. In '69, the Talladega Superspeedway opened just a little bit bigger than the Daytona International Speedway. Daytona was 2.5 miles with a 31-degree bank. Talladega Superspeedway in Alabama was 2.66 miles with a 33-degree banking. And the Talladega Superspeedway opened to controversy as the drivers boycotted the event over safety issues, feeling that the tires they had would not work there. So NASCAR did what they could do best to fill the field. They took drivers and cars from lesser divisions to fill the field to make that happen. In 1970, Buck Baker breaks the 200-mile-an-hour barrier at Talladega. In '71, tobacco giant R.J. Reynolds becomes NASCAR's first series sponsor, calling it the Winston Cup Series, a sponsorship which lasted 33 years and began what is called the modern era of NASCAR. In 1975, Bobby Allison has 5 wins in an AMC Matador. In '76, David Pearson wins a Daytona 500, coming off a turn 4 with Richard Petty crashing and skidding and sliding to the finish line at a speed of 20 miles an hour. In 1979, Daytona 500's first national TV coverage, flag to flag by CBS on a snowy day in the Northeast. In '81, Richard Petty wins his 7th championship. In '84, Richard Petty earns his 200th career victory with President of the United States Ronald Reagan in attendance. In '85, Bill Elliott wins the Darlington Southern 500, the Daytona 500, the Winston 500, earning him $1 million in bonus money from R.J. Reynolds. And a little side note to that, when the marketing people came up with that idea, R.J. Reynolds was a little concerned. We're going to give a person $1 million. He says, it's never been done before that the same guy won these 3 races. We're safe. Bill Elliott was more than happy to take their money that day. Let's see, in 1996, underdog team and underfunded Alan Kowickley. Kowickley wins his first ever and only championship, losing his life in the midseason between 96 and 97. In 2001, we lost Dale Earnhardt. In 2004, Nextel replaces R.J. Reynolds as the title sponsor, which shortly thereafter becomes Sprint. And in 2017, the Monster Energy drink takes over the title sponsorship, changing the name of the Sprint Cup to the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series. A lot of stuff went on in the Daytona and NASCAR over the years, a lot of stuff. And when you look back on the years, when you look back and see all the things that they did, and a lot of people, like we've said on the show, knock NASCAR. NASCAR is only trying to make money. NASCAR only cares about the money. NASCAR is a business. And NASCAR is a sanctioning body that races at tracks owned by International Speedway Corp, Speedway Motorsports Incorporated, and some independents. And you look back in the 50s and the 60s, and we've talked about it in Where Are They Now segments, 55 events in a year, 50 events in a year. A guy only ran 36 of the 60 events one year and had more points than anybody. When you look back on that, it's just incredible. And moving forward, what's going to happen moving forward in NASCAR? The cars are changing. A lot of foreign cars that are built in America are racing in the series, and there's more to come. Front-wheel drive. Most of the cars in the street today are front-wheel drive. When is NASCAR going to go front-wheel drive? And it's just one of those things. It's just one of those things. And, you look ahead, the management of NASCAR, Is it as good as when Grandpa ran it, Big Bill? I don't know. That remains to be seen. I'm sure some people thought Big Bill France was a little wacky too. He was like the Gestapo of racing. And if he didn't want you at his racetrack, you didn't race there. And if you bad-mouthed him or his company or his sanctioning body, you were going to spend most of that race in the tech area. That's how it was back in those days. That's how it was. And you know what? That's probably how it still is. But because of social media and everybody having, cameras on their phone, a lot is done behind closed doors. So congratulations, NASCAR. 70 years. I won't be around for 100, maybe, but I'll be around for 75. It'll be interesting to see how that runs, how that works, and what they do different. Anyway, we're going to take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk about the 2018, what we plan to do here, and some other race talk as well when we come back.
Hey guys, this is Jibs from Ocean's 8 Alaska, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Hey, I'm Raul Panther.
And I'm Commander B. Hawkins.
And I'm Russ Willie. We're some of the proto men. If we see you without this bracelet, you get punched in the But if you have this bracelet from Inravio.com, you can win $100.
Put one of these on, or else.
What's up, guys? This is Assuming We Survive, and you're watching Inravio TV Network.
Hey, welcome back. Welcome back. Well, as you know, the 2017 is coming to a close. There's only about 13 days left in this year. Where did it go? And before you know it, we'll be back at Speed Weeks in February. We'll be back at our weekly tracks in April and May, and we'll be going through yet another season of auto racing. And we'll be going through another season here at the 505 on Racing Show. Today, for those who keep track, this is show number 325. Wow, who would have thought? But anyway, we have some fun. We're always looking to make things better and make things more interesting here at the 505 on Racing Show and Inravio TV. And, we're going to continue our Where Are They Now segment throughout. It was something I started in the off season because there's not a lot to talk about, but I'm having fun doing it. I'm learning stuff about these guys, and so are you, hopefully. And again, if there's anybody out there that has a driver that they want me to look into, it doesn't have to be a NASCAR guy. It could be an Indy guy. It could be a dirt guy. Whatever. I'll do my best to get some information on them as well. So we're going to continue to do this segment. Looking ahead to January, believe it or not, we have some scheduled guests that are looking to come on in January, if not January, February. And Sal Accardi Jr., who has been trying to get on for the last month or so, he had some work issues, and then there was a loss in his family, so our condolences to Sal Accardi Jr., that he passed away last Monday and was unable to attend, and as well today. So we'll give Sal, we'll bring him back. He's a modified driver, and by the time he comes to do the show in January, he'll have a big announcement about his team as well. Multi-time weekly racing series champion Dave Brigatti, who kind of tore things up at his local speedway here in Long Island, taking down 2 championships in 2 separate divisions. Will be here as a guest on our show as well in January. Former figure 8 standout in the 1970s, Richie Shea, drove the famous number 85, is scheduled to appear on our show in January as well. Matt Dillner, former Long Island trackside News 12 reporter and now a freelance cameraman, an operator who does a lot of filming for NASCAR Images, will be Skyping into our show from his home in North Carolina. So that should be interesting as we get to talk. I've known Matt Dillner for a long time, and anytime I see him down at some of the racetracks, we have a good laugh, and we had a real good time a year ago this week down at in Charlotte, North Carolina, for Freddie Kraft's wedding. So we're looking forward for Matt to be on. And we plan to take our show on the road a little bit in 2018. I plan to do some shows from Charlotte, North Carolina, and also from New Smyrna Beach, Florida during the speed weeks, and many more venues. We're going to do things a little bit different. Bring some interviews back live at the racetrack. For some of those Mondays where I couldn't be here over the years because I was at a race somewhere, well, we might even just report right from there and do the show from there, which can be done. So we're looking forward to 2018, and hopefully we bring on board a co-host, so you guys don't have to listen and see me the whole show. So we're working on that as well. And we're doing this a long time, and and I always say that I'm the guy in front of the camera, but there's a lot of people behind the scenes, and with 2017 coming to an end and show 325, I want to thank those guys, especially the people who put this all together. Chuck and Bonnie Schultz, I've been friends with them a long time, and I want to thank them. And I've been through a lot of producers along the way, and guys in the control room, and Mike's in there now, and he's doing a good job for us. And you get used to somebody, you get used to like one guy's way, and then you get a new guy, and you're like, how's this going to work out? And I'll tell you what, it's working out pretty good, so it's all good. And the people who text me and email me and message me and say things, and I get their input. And my old buddy WJ, may he rest in peace, was one of those guys. Every Tuesday I got a call from him to talk about the show, what went right, what went wrong, what I should do next time. And he was sorely missed, especially around this time of year. And then there's the people who I get that message. I'm not even in my car in a parking lot, and I get that message, good show. The feedback is nice. I even had a guy who told me, he told me I was the worst official River had ever had. I was even worse on the tour, and my show is the worst show he ever watched in his life. And I responded back to him, I said, thank you for your input. And I'm sure he read that, figured I was going to banter. No, he has a right to his opinion. If that's what he thinks, that's what he thinks. That's okay. But you know what? It's 325 shows later, and I'm still here. And that guy's obviously still watching, so we're doing something right. So, you look back on that. You look back on this past year, some of the changes that we made with the show, and it's all good. I fought some of these changes, let me tell you. And in a polite way, I would go, yeah, all right. And then I started this thing called an outline. And you know what? It's helped me tremendously. My old buddy Chuck was, if you send us an outline, we'll know what you're doing. I always had stuff written down, but it's working out much better this way. So I want to thank everybody for sticking by us all these years. And my chat room people are usually the same people, and the people who watch it, just without the chat room, thank you. And the people who watch it during the week while they're at lunch break at work, or when they get home on a Tuesday or whatever, because they have things to do. So, and I see Jay Slice is back in business. I was wondering what happened to you, Jay Slice. You're one of the good guys. Anyway, as you know, as I wore my Santa hat today, I'm in the spirit of Christmas, and I'm having a ball. Christmas. I'm having a ball, so there will not be a show Christmas Day. You should be enjoying a holiday with your family and friends. And New Year's Day, we will not be having a show, so we'll be coming back in January, the first Monday, or actually the second Monday in January, to continue and work our way up to show 350. And we're having some fun. So with that, I'll say Happy Hanukkah, Merry Christmas, and a happy and healthy New Year to all of you. We love you guys. We're having a ball doing this. And wherever your endeavors are going to bring you this holiday season, please be safe. Please be careful. Give everybody a hug. Tell them you love them. God bless you all. And we will see you next year. Good night, everybody.
Inravio.